asking, does Oklahoma City have a gang problem?
They got bad guys, guns, drugs, and cash.
Drive down Peoria from the north to south or south to north, you drastically see the difference in life, especially once you cross the train tracks.
Welcome back to another episode of Hood 187. In today's episode, we are going to take a look at Oklahoma's most feared and largest gang, the Hoover Criminals.
U.S. Marshals Service wrapped up today with 163 arrests and 46 illegal guns confiscated.
There's a long-running feud between the Green Team and the Hoover Crips. That started because one gang member looked at a rival gang member the wrong way. That led to most of the shootings and killings we've seen in the past few months.
The Hoover Criminals story starts back in the 1960s, when they were called the Hoover Groovers. At the time, they were just another neighborhood crew in Los Angeles. But things changed when the Crips began uniting local gangs under the Crip name. The Hoovers decided to drop Groovers and became the Hoover Gangster Crips, joining the Gangster Crips side of the Crip movement. This new alliance with the Gangster Crips brought problems to not only the Hoovers, but the East Side Crips too. In August 1979, a rumor spread that the Hoovers had something to do with the death of Raymond Washington, the founder of the Crip gang. People claim that the Hoovers pulled up on Raymond outside of his house, which is on the east side, and shot him close up, ending his life and dreams to unite the east side under one gang. This sparked a long and bitter rivalry between the Hoovers and all the East Side Crips, leading to years of feuds and violence. The infighting among the Crips caused the Hoovers to make a big decision. Most of their sets dropped the Crip from their name and started calling themselves the Hoover Criminals. However, one set stayed Hoover Crips because of their close ties with the 8 Trey Gangster Crips. In the 1980s, when crack cocaine spread through Los Angeles, the Hoovers were deeply involved in the drug trade. They became one of the city's biggest and most feared gangs, but their activities also brought a lot of police attention. Arrests for shootings, murders, and drug dealing piled up, forcing many Hoovers to leave Los Angeles. Some members fled to places like Texas and Oklahoma to escape the heat. According to OG Tom, who is a Oklahoma City Hoover, the gang first landed in Tulsa before settling in Oklahoma City, where they started recruiting pimps, hustlers, and drug dealers, forming the Pitts Park Hoover Criminals. The Pitts Park Hoovers are one of Oklahoma's most reputable sets and are stamped by the original Hoover gang over in California. This Cali stamp just pushed the Hoovers to go harder, quickly earning a reputation as the most violent gang in Oklahoma. They were blamed for hundreds of deaths. One story says they killed a rival gang member and fed his body to pigs in Muskogee. In another, they reportedly broke into a house, killed everyone inside, and set it on fire. These brutal acts sent a clear message to rivals and law enforcement. The Hoovers were not to be messed with. They made it known they would do whatever it took to stay on top. This kind of violence has helped them over the past 30 years run Tulsa's drug trade and spark multiple wars, with two of the most notable being with the 5-2 Red Mob Gangster Bloods, which is a homegrown blood set from North Tulsa, and the neighborhood Crips, which include the 111s and Rolling 60s. Mikey D was a big name in the Hoovers and was known around the town as an OG and was alleged to be over one of their sets in Tulsa. But when he got locked up and sentenced to 20 years in prison for his role in a cocaine drug ring that was rumored to stretch from Tulsa to OKC, the Hoovers would double down and become more active in the streets of Thugtown. If you stood against their operation, it wasn't just a problem, it was a death sentence. A green light was put out on anyone in the way, even law enforcement. Sergeant Mike Huff would find out the hard way how dangerous his job really was when Philip Summers, also known as Stay Easy, tried to orchestrate his murder.
3 men have been arrested for planning to murder Sergeant Mike Huff.
Stay Easy had already built a violent reputation as a Hoover Crip. Long before he set his sights on Huff, his first known victims were Shelly and Van. Shelly and Van were the parents of a rival gang member. Shelly and Van were hardworking people, and their only flaw was having a son affiliated with a rival gang. Stay Easy couldn't get to the son, so Stay Easy decided to have his parents killed instead. Huff was instrumental in putting Stay Easy behind bars for those murders, testifying against him in court. Stay Easy was sentenced to death, but his case was later overturned on appeal, and he was awaiting a new trial. But while still behind bars, Stay Easy refused to go down quietly. Enraged at Huff for testifying and for searching his jail cell in connection with another murder plot against Tulsa County's DA Tim Harris, he decided to retaliate. He would reach out to an associate in order to hit on Huff. He instructed the person to contact D. Bell, who was still free, to set things in motion. But what Easy didn't know was that his go-between was actually an undercover officer. As law enforcement listened in through wiretap calls, they uncovered the details of the murder plot. Stay Easy then recruited Michael Lucas to carry out the hit. Michael Lucas was already on law enforcement's radar after being caught with loaded assault rifles. But when the undercover asked what should be done if Huff's wife was home, Stay Easy responded, "Wait till she leaves, break in, and just kill Huff." But before the plan could be executed, Tulsa police moved in and knocked down D's door and searched his home, before arresting D. Bell. D's plan was to meet the undercover to get Huff's address so they could move forward with killing Huff and potentially hiding his body. Jail notes would further confirm the murder conspiracy, leaving little doubt about Stay Easy's intentions. This was enough to lock them up and make sure Stay Easy would die behind bars. In 2004, the Hoovers got into a war with the 111 neighborhood Crips and were out to get OG Bud. Bud was a highly respected and reputable member of the NHC, but he found himself in some serious funk with the Hoovers. They were allegedly behind the deaths of his mother and stepfather, and on April 7, 2013, they finally caught up with him. Bud was shot multiple times and dumped from a moving car in North Tulsa. The Hoovers were sliding on everyone, including their own. The Hoovers have many sets across Tulsa, with the 54 Kenosha being a decent-sized Hoover set on Kenosha Avenue. This set is known to be a renegade set after siding with the neighborhood Crips, who run under the Squeeze Team Alliance. The story goes that a Rolling 60 Crip named 3 Shy was shot and killed by a Hoover clique called the Gas Team. But the real story is that he wasn't wearing his seatbelt, so when the car crashed, he went through the window. The history behind the Rolling 60s is actually pretty silly. At first they were the 53rd Hartford Avenue Crips, then became the 53rd Playboy Crips, and eventually just the 53rd Crips. But that wasn't enough for them, so they decided to legitimize themselves. They started beefing with other gangs, and eventually, they connected with the Los Angeles Rolling 60 Crips and got the blessing to become a Rolling 60 set. OG Sav from 53rd was the one to thank for making this happen. However, their alliance with the 54 Hoovers would change things up, making them different from their LA counterparts and causing confusion in Tulsa's gang politics. The Gas Team members, and even some OKC Hoovers started claiming 3 Shy's body and dissing him, which caught the attention of the Tulsa Hoovers. They told the 54 Hoovers to pick a side or become opposition, and the 54 Hoovers chose the Squeeze Team over their own Hoovers. This led to them becoming a dying gang. But the death of a Hoover gang member's son would spark the birth of one of the deadliest gangs in Tulsa, Mikeyland. Known for sliding on anyone who disrespects Mikey's name, they became a ruthless force, leaving bodies and fear in their wake. On June 11, 2019, there was a lot of talk around Tulsa about what happened to Lil Mikey, also known as Baby Hustle. Lil Mikey was the son of Mikey D, and people said his death wasn't just an ordinary situation, but a weird backdoor by affiliates of EBK. Some rumors went around that Lil Mikey was with 2 other gang members, and things turned bad when they were left alone together before his death.
Tulsa police are working to learn more information about a deadly shooting near East 51st Place North in MLK. At this point, detectives say they can't call the shooting a homicide because they're still waiting to hear the ruling from the medical examiner's office. Homicide detectives say they talked to people who were inside the home when the shooting happened, but no arrests have been made.
Lil Mikey was believed to be a member of the 4800 Hoovers, a gang that got started by a guy named Pooh 8. Pooh 8 was important to the birth of the 48 Hoovers because he had the blessing to turn the 48 Denver-made Hustle Gang into an official Hoover set. The 48th Denver-made Hustle Gang was a black flag gang born in the 90s and held strong ties with various Hoover sets across North Tulsa. They pushed the blood killer line deep into the streets before officially becoming a Hoover gang. But the story surrounding Pooh 8's death has always been wild, with rumors circulating that it all started with a heated argument between him and his girlfriend. Allegedly, after the altercation, Pooh 8 snapped and opened fire on her, which led to him fleeing the scene. It's said that the Tulsa police chased him down, and the confrontation escalated quickly, with the cops eventually opening fire and taking his life. But whether it's true or not, I can't confirm or deny. It's one of those rumors that'll probably never have a clear answer. But one of the most notable Tulsa rappers, 4800 Osama, would display his affiliation to the 48 Hoovers.
Hey, let it drip, let it rip, nigga, just walk him down. New mop, new brain, hear that sound, walk him down. 5K, a nigga fly K, clip a nigga wings, nigga. Hey, you can die today.
5K, a nigga fly K, clip a nigga wings, nigga. Hey, you can die today.
But he was known for more than just rapping. Osama had a rap sheet filled with shootings and criminal activity. 48 Osama is credited with bringing the Stockton flow to Oklahoma and has ties to the EBK gang in Stockton, California. While some label him a phony or EBK wannabe, Osama proved he was the real deal, dropping collaborations with the EBK gang and establishing his name in the rap game, even from behind bars. Osama didn't just rap about the streets, he showed he lived the life he spoke about.
Just know what it is, they see me and it's a shootout. Asshole, stepping on toes and make a move out. Now I'm to this pole, ha ha, yeah.
Just know what it is, they see me and it's a shootout. Asshole, stepping on toes and make a move out. Now I'm to this pole.
On June 14, 2020, 48 Osama was said to pull up to the Savannah Landing apartments. The Savannah Landing is historically a home for the Red Mob Blood set in the area. The Red Mob Blood set is known as the Five, the same gang that Osama was dissing in the snippet.
5K, a nigga fly K.
5K, a nigga fly K.
It's said the 48 Hoovers had a lengthy history of beef with the 52 Red Mob Bloods, and on this day, it would escalate. He allegedly let off multiple rounds at a group of Red Mob members hanging outside the building. Gunfire would allegedly erupt between the two groups, but when the smoke cleared, a teen was found hit, taking bullets to both legs. The teen was expected to recover and be released from the hospital soon after the incident, but he refused to cooperate with law enforcement, likely fearing retaliation for snitching. 48 Osama would go weeks without getting caught, but Tulsa police were already on his trail. They had intel on his activities and were aware he'd been trying to sell the gun used in the shooting. Osama would attempt to sell the gun on Marketplace, but what he didn't know was that the cops were one step ahead. 2 months later, the police tested the shell casings from the shooting and found they matched Osama's gun. Allegedly, there was also footage of Osama carrying the weapon in his waistband as he ran back to his car. It didn't take long before he was arrested and charged with crimes tied to the shooting. 48 Osama is currently locked up in the Oklahoma prison system and had plans of getting out and becoming the face of Oklahoma rap. He says he didn't want it to play out like this. He was supposed to be a ball player, but the back-to-back funerals of people close to him pushed him deeper into the streets, claiming that he was trained for this life and forced him to have the mentality of kill or be killed. Tulsa might not look like much, but once the sun drops, it turns into a war zone. It's gotten so bad that folks will open fire on anyone they think is tied to the Crips, Squeeze Team, or Bloods. Something as small as looking at someone the wrong way while you're pumping gas can end with bullets flying.
One person is now in custody, and police say it's another gang shooting between a Hoover Crip and a member of the Bloods.
This video shows when two men started shooting at each other in the parking lot of Nafa's convenience store on Mohawk Boulevard Friday. The video shows a man walking out of the store, pulling out a gun, and hiding behind a car before shooting at the victim on the other side of the car. The victim falls to the ground, then shoots back. A third person hops into the driver's seat of the car, and the shooter hops in the back seat, and they take off, and the man on the ground starts shooting at the car.
But not everything was smooth for the Hoovers. The 52nd Hunted Red Mob Bloods had their own plans to send a message. SG and Bubba and other Red Mob members got word about a party going down on New Year's Day, where a clique of Hoovers was expected to be. That's when 5'2" member Alvin started circling the neighborhood. A week before, Tulsa police had already stopped Alvin in the same car. During this traffic stop, they wrote down Alvin's phone number. Little did Alvin know, that would be the very thing that got him caught later. The party kicked off around 10 p.m., with the Hoovers and their affiliates enjoying themselves when a car suddenly pulled up near 15th and Utica. Without warning, shots rang out. Those at the party recall hearing over 30 rounds tearing through the house, shattering windows, and ripping through the inside. The car sped off but was later spotted at the Savannah Landings apartment complex. When police arrived at the scene, they found a crowd of teens huddled around a body. That body was 12-year-old Stephen Bruner. He wasn't a gang member, just an affiliate of those at the party. A bullet meant for a Hoover Crip had struck him in the head and ended Stephen's life before it began. The Tulsa police wasted no time putting pieces together. They had already gathered intel on the Red Mob and its members even before the shooting. The traffic stop, surveillance footage of Alvin at a quick trip just 20 minutes before the shooting, and his phone data all lined up.
Then the data shows Chaplin was back within the area of the murder scene.
Before long, arrests were made, but the trial was a whole mess. As the three Red Mob members faced judgment, a witness took the stand and laid everything out: the motive, the planning, and the shooting itself. That's when the Red Mob members lost it, shouting in court, calling the witness a liar. The scene got so wild that the judge had to cut things short and end the trial early. After court, the witness headed to their car, but before they could leave, words were exchanged between the witness and two Bloods in the court's parking lot. That's when the Red Mob members would start to yell things like "eat cheese" and calling the witness a rat before opening fire on them. Fortunately, nobody was hit. Police swarmed the scene, and both Red Mob members were arrested right outside the courthouse. But while the Tulsa Hoovers were at war with the Red Mob Bloods and NHC, the Hoovers in OKC had a long history that birthed some notable figures. Like in 1988, when a Los Angeles Crip came to Oklahoma in the late 80s to flood the east side of Oklahoma City with crack cocaine. This had law enforcement on edge, as they had no real plan to handle the drug trade or the gang wars that followed the same path as California. It's believed that this Los Angeles Crip had a direct pipeline from LA, bringing cocaine back on the plane before breaking it down for the Hoovers and Shotgun members to move across the east side. But eventually, law enforcement got a tip about a shipment he was making and caught him slipping at the Will Rogers World Airport. A gang expert later identified him as a certified member of the Hoover Crips. He was looking at 10 years to life, but the outcome of his sentence and whereabouts remained to be a mystery. One thing's for sure, his arrest only made local OKC crews more intrigued by Los Angeles gangs. And before long, other LA sets started making their way into OKC, flipping Black Flag gangs into full-fledged LA hoods. This influence hit Pitts Park hard, with the Pitts Park Hoovers becoming the largest Blackstreet gang in Oklahoma City and the most hated by the 80s. The Fonchill Gangster Crips formed in 1989, aligning themselves with the neighborhood Crips and taking on their beef with the Hoovers. This might seem strange to outsiders, but the Fonchill Gangsters aren't under the X3 card. Instead, they use gangster as just a name. The Hoovers' main cliques include Pitts Center Hood, Parkside, and Hillside, with their main funk being with all neighborhood Crip gangs, including the Rolling 90s, 60s, and 46 neighborhood Crips. This makes their turf one of the most dangerous hoods in OKC, while their hood is the largest hood, is surrounded by enemies from every direction. Despite the heavy opposition, they've birthed some well-known members, including H. Hop. H. Hop was a member of the 9 Deuce Hoovers, who formed an alliance with the Pitts Park Hoovers after both hoods linked up over shared territory. It's alleged that when it came to the NHC and Hoover feud, H. Hop put belt to ass, earning a fearsome reputation, and H. Hop was rumored to be behind multiple shootings on the east side involving NHC and ESP. But his grooving came to an unexpected end when during an alleged skit, his own groover, Big Lucky 7, accidentally hit him in the middle of sliding. Big Lucky 7 was H. Hop's right hand, more like a brother than just a homie. Some whispered that he did it on purpose, but many have tried to shut down those claims. Lucky was pulled in for questioning, but was never charged for his alleged role in the incident. So by the 1990s, Oklahoma had become Baby Cali, catching the attention of OGs from LA. They started making their way to the state to verify and validate the local gangs. OG Hoover Poo was one of those guys, bringing the 5 Deuce Hoovers to the Paseo district before gentrification hit. They quickly clicked up, with the larger 107 Hoovers on the east side, but ran into issues with the Lime Hood Pyru over on 27th and Robinson. Back then, shootouts seemed normal between the Lime Hoods and Hoovers, but nowadays, the 52 HGC hold down the northeast part of the city due to all the development. With Hoover Poo locked up, the 5 Deuce Hoovers lost their pull, unable to hold the same influence as the Salos, but they still rep hard for the Hoovers. By the early 2000s, most of the OKC Hoover cliques had fallen in line under the 107 Hoovers, spreading their influence across cities like Lawton, Waokaa, and Enid.
Waokaa terrorized.
Light Horse Police blaming a gang war for fires and shootings.
Gang violence, gang shootings. Over the past couple weeks, though, law enforcement has been pretty tight-lipped about what's going on exactly.
With the Enid chapter making headlines with the shocking and bloody story of Little Ronnie, also known as Straight Lace Gutta. Little Ronnie was said to have been tied to the 107 Hoovers in Pitts Park since his teenage years, and law enforcement knew Ronnie as a shooter with a reputation for handling business when it came to violence. Ronnie stood tall and stocky. He had muscles that matched his intimidating presence. But Ronnie wasn't just about brute strength. He knew how to throw hands and wasn't afraid to use that to strike fear into anyone who crossed him. It's said that Ronnie was from Enid, Oklahoma, a town that wasn't typically known for its gang wars, but by the time the Hoovers established themselves, they made sure they made their mark. On October 20th, 2012, Michael Rhodes was sitting on the couch with his 3-year-old daughter. She was lying on his chest just moments before someone burst into the room and opened fire, killing him instantly. Before the shooting, Michael and his wife had opened their home to 7 of his nephews and nieces, all previously in the custody of the Department of Human Services. But one of those nieces had started causing trouble and became affiliated with the Hoover Crips. His niece was seeing Terrell Howard, an Oklahoma Hoover with connections to Tulsa and OKC. It was rumored that Howard had been cheating on Rhodes' niece, leading to bad blood after their breakup. It was later revealed that Atiana Jordan, known as Lady Bucky, and Tanisha Pennon, known as Lady Get One, was the females on the phone. The tension from this dispute ultimately led to the female Hoovers threatening to get her and her baby. This just angered Rhodes' niece, but instead of calling the police, she reached out to her baby daddy, a blood member named Briss. Briss drove to the Rhodes home and opened fire at the female Hoovers, intending to intimidate them. However, instead of backing down, the Hoovers retaliated by picking up and throwing large rocks at her house, shattering multiple windows on the property. Michael Rhodes returned to his home to find the windows shattered. Troubled by what his niece had shared, he contacted the Department of Human Services, ensuring the foster children were removed for their safety. Meanwhile, the niece had left the house to stay with Briss's mother. Sometime around the 19th or 20th of October, the tires on the Rhodes car, parked in their driveway, were slashed. The police were called and took statements, investigating the incident. Mrs. Rhodes later spoke with her niece about the situation, only to learn that she had been receiving phone calls and Facebook messages from the female Hoovers, fueling the ongoing tension. Mrs. Rhodes received multiple phone calls on her home line from the female Hoovers. She kept telling them that her niece wasn't at the house anymore and begged them not to return, pleading with them to stop causing trouble. On that same evening of October 20th, Mrs. Rhodes went out to dinner with a friend, leaving her husband Michael to watch over their daughter and 19-year-old son. Michael Rhodes was lounging on the couch, holding his baby girl in his arms, just on the edge of falling asleep. Upstairs, their son was lost in his video games, completely unaware of the danger creeping closer. Without warning, the front door slammed open. Lil Ronnie and the Hoovers charged in, guns blazing. The shots rang out, hitting Michael as he tried to react. Only 3 of the shots hit Michael. The Hoovers, scared and shocked, quickly ran toward the front door. They panicked, trying to escape the scene as fast as they could. Thankfully, his daughter was unharmed, but she was covered in her father's blood. His son rushed downstairs and tried to save his father. His son struggled to stop the bleeding while he called 911. The fatal shot hit his left shoulder, tearing into his aorta and both lungs, making it impossible to save Michael Rhodes. A few hours before the hit, Lady Bucky and Lady Get One called Ronnie to tell him what was going on. Even though Ronnie lived in Enid, the 2 female Hoovers needed his help in Oklahoma City, so Lil Ronnie went with Brian Butler to Lady Get One's apartment in OKC. Ronnie, Butler, Lady Get One, Lady Bucky, Howard, and another younger guy all piled into 2 cars and drove to the south side of OKC to rob some Mexicans. It's unknown what happened on the south side, but everyone knows the Mexicans out there don't mess around. It's possible they went there to cause problems with the Grande Barrio Central or Southside Locos. However, when they realized they couldn't carry out their alleged plans, they might have decided to give up. As they drove away from the south side, Ronnie talked to Lady Get One. The 2 cars then stopped at a church near the Rhodes house, and everyone except Butler got out to talk. Afterward, they got back in the cars and drove near the Rhodes house, parking by a stop sign down the street. Ronnie told the youngster to sit in the driver's seat of his car, while Butler stayed in the passenger seat. Little Ronnie, Lady Get One, Howard, and Lady Bucky would then walk up to the house. Then gunshots went off, and the Hoovers ran back to the car. At first, one Hoover didn't want to get in the car, but Ronnie pulled them in, saying, "We were supposed to kill everybody in that house." After leaving the Rhodes house, Ronnie and the Hoovers dropped Lady Bucky off at her house, then went to Butler's cousin's place. When they got to the place, Ronnie washed his hands in gasoline and told Butler he fired 4 shots. Ronnie said Rhodes was getting up or reaching for something, trying to make it seem like the shooting was okay. But Oklahoma's courts didn't agree with Little Ronnie and saw it as a gang-related shooting and a home invasion. It was also rumored that Little Ronnie always had a .45 caliber Taurus handgun with him, and he kept it after the shooting, both at Butler's cousin's house and when he went back to Enid. Early in the morning on October 20th, Ronnie changed his phone number, possibly trying to cover up his tracks. When Butler told him that the murder would come back to cause problems for him, Ronnie got mad. He said he was tired of people telling him what to do and how to live. In the days after the murder, Ronnie told Butler that Rhodes had died, but the girl, probably his niece, wouldn't testify because they planned to take care of it on the streets. After his arrest, Ronnie denied being near the Rhodes home at the time of the murder, but his cell phone records placed him in the area. More evidence established his relationship with Lady Get One and Lady Bucky. A phone call from Ronnie, while in jail, to his cousin Traylon, led police to the murder weapon, the same .45 caliber Taurus he was known to carry. Based on this evidence, the jury convicted Little Ronnie of first-degree malice murder, which refers to murders committed with the specific intent to kill or cause serious bodily harm. In the punishment phase of the trial, the state sought the death penalty as punishment for the decedent's murder and presented evidence supporting 2 aggravating circumstances. They believed that Little Ronnie created a great risk of death to more than one person, and there was a probability that Little Ronnie would commit criminal acts of violence that would constitute a continuing threat to society. Oklahoma is known for being tough on murder, and they sometimes give the death penalty to people who commit murder, but not everyone who commits murder gets the death penalty. There's a long process with trials and appeals to make sure it's the right decision. Sometimes, this process can take a long time, and some people on death row end up having their sentences changed or delayed. This has caused some activists to speak out, protesting to save these criminals' lives and get them out of prison. Little Ronnie's friends and family joined these protests. They believe Ronnie is innocent and want everyone to know he didn't do it. The media covering Lil Ronnie's story has mostly painted him as a monster. This got worse when it was revealed that Rhodes' 3-year-old daughter later told the police, "The monsters hurt my daddy." As of today, a recent post was uploaded making these claims about Little Ronnie's innocence. They argue that there were no eyewitnesses to the crime. The star witness changed his story multiple times and even had a private meeting with the prosecutor before testifying. They also say there was no physical or solid circumstantial evidence presented in court, and that the prosecutor never met their burden of proof. According to them, Ronnie was simply found guilty based on lies. What I think is that the key part of the case is the cell phone records. If Ronnie's phone was near Rhodes' home around the time of the murder, that could be strong circumstantial evidence linking him to the crime. Cell phones typically track locations through towers or GPS, so it's possible that his phone records could place him close to the scene during that crucial time. And while there were no eyewitnesses, the 3-year-old daughter being present at the scene still matters. Even though she couldn't give a full testimony, her presence at the crime scene helps build the story of what happened, and it could provide important details in understanding the events. They also claim there was no physical evidence, but I think if the gun used in the shooting could be traced back to Ronnie, that would be huge. If Ronnie was the last one with that gun, law enforcement could potentially track the shell casings back to that same weapon. This would make it hard to deny his involvement, but that's just my take on it. In 2023, Quantrell Steele was gunned down on the 1300 block of Northeast 8th Street, losing his life at just 25 years old. By the age of 20, he had already been charged with discharging a firearm, allegedly tied to a drive-by shooting. Over the years, he faced multiple arrests for firearm possession after former adjudication of a juvenile and was allegedly affiliated with the Pitts Park Hoovers. Despite his alleged past, there were rumors that Quantrell was trying to turn his life around. Some claimed he was working to regain custody of his kids and distance himself from the streets. Unfortunately, he never got the chance. On September 10th, Quantrell was seen hanging out at Pitts Park with individuals said to be affiliated with the Hoovers before stopping at a 7-Eleven and later visiting the Tree Lounge. He and his associates were in the parking lot before he eventually left, heading toward Northeast 8th Street. It's unclear if he realized he was being followed, but before he could react, gunfire erupted, and by the time officers arrived, Quantrell was already gone.
There were at least 50 rounds being fired.
There were at least 50 rounds being fired.
Authorities launched an investigation, but with no solid leads, the case quickly went cold. The only details they had were that a group of unidentified men in a vehicle had opened fire, leaving him dead. Several alleged rival gangs in the area, including the NHCs and ESPs, were known to have ongoing conflicts with individuals rumored to be part of the Pitts Park Hoovers, making it difficult to determine a suspect. To this day, his killers remain unknown, and the circumstances around his death are still shrouded in mystery. But for now, Quantrell Steele's case is just another unsolved homicide, a cold reminder that in this world, the past never really lets you go.
He was a person that was trying to turn his life around and get his kids back, and his kids do deserve to know what happened to their dad and hopefully at some point know who had killed their father.
But since the Oklahoma City Hoovers were formed, Pitts Park has been in a long and bloody fight with the City Boy gangsters, who later became the 456 Piru Bloods. These Bloods now go by the name 87 NHP, which also includes the Lime Hood Piru Bloods. The war between these two groups has been going on for many years, but last year, some younger members of the Hoovers and 87 started to team up and form a group called 1087. When it comes to the Hoovers, things can get pretty confusing because some of their cliques are official groups that are part of the main organization. But there are others like the 1087 that aren't stamped to form these alliances. They act more like their own gang, going rogue and doing their own thing without following the main Hoover rules. It's rumored that rapper 5-Star Guap from 87 NHP and some 107 Hoovers linked up to form 1087. 5-Star Guap is a rapper who has made music about his alleged conflict with the rolling 60 Crips. This might be why the YNs from 87 and the YNs from the Hoovers decided to team up.
We be robbing these so as day one. How we stick them up and we admit it. I be robbing these as Lil Block. How I took his gun. I just started a stick up kid challenge. Go sing that song and name all the niggas you robbed, nigga. Gangster, nigga. Let's see who got more hats, nigga. The homie died with the slaughter, bitch died about. I keep it phone close, my time coming. Yeah, it's that sad morning, knowing I'ma die without it.
While 5-Star Guap is the main rapper for the YNs and the NHP, the top artist for the Hoovers is Dulo Lay. Dulo Lay is a respected member, and his song Block Boogie got support from the California Hoovers, and his track Popping became even more popular, getting him a boost in views.
Bitch, I'm popping, still on the block, I got real hitters locked in. Brother got the same 40, call that boy Smith twin. Knock a nigga down, I be striking like a bullet pin. We ain't playing fair, be lucky to get a heads up. Big squeeze on me, dumb nigga, put them hands up. I ain't never ran anytime, it was time to man up. Bars always on me, ain't no way they finna fin us. Jordan Ave.
Dulo Lay and the Hoovers of Pitts Park represent Homicide Gang, a clique of alleged shooters and frontliners. This clique was rumored to be started before or after the death of H-Hop to keep his grooving alive. Gangs were evolving rapidly, forming new alliances and sets through Oklahoma at a pace the authorities couldn't keep up with.
The police department got rid of its gang unit, and one viewer wants to know why.
The rising conflicts, fueled by the Hoovers and other groups, led to a surge in murders that remained unsolved, ultimately forcing the shutdown of the city's gang unit. It looks like the Oklahoma Hoovers have made their mark, leading the state in homicides and keeping shows like The First 48 locked onto Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Thanks for watching another episode of Hood 187. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so more people can see it. And don't forget to check out any of the artists mentioned in this video.
Why did the Oklahoma City Police Department get rid of the gang unit at a time when gang violence seems to be more prevalent? That's the question for Oklahoma City Police Chief Wade Gorley this morning.
When I first became chief and looking at the way crime had changed in Oklahoma City, especially violent crime, you had gangs that had kind of evolved in what they were doing and how they were victimizing the community. And they were actually coming together in some instances for, for financial gain in the drug and the gun trade. And so we had to change how we were targeting violent crime in Oklahoma City, and that's where the decision came about.
Officials announce arrests made in connection to what they call gang violence. They say the arrests are in connection to a shooting at a Family Dollar, as well as a homicide at an Easy Mart. And more could be on the way.
As for the lack of communication, District Attorney Eric Johnson claims a lack of resources to communicate.